What's up, guys? Thanks for stopping back in. Sorry, this video is a little bit different. More like the very first video that I made, as I am back in the car driving again. Um, so I know this looks a little bit different. It's not an actual YouTube video. It's more podcast style. And I meant to get to this video sooner, but I had some things pop up and was unable to get it recorded. So we're just gonna do what we can, and you know, still get this done before tip off of the IU game tonight. As I'm also gonna try to make a preview video quick on my drive here. But yeah, just a poor game for us in general against Michigan. Um, Not the performance that we were expecting to go out there and see. As we know that Michigan is ranked number one. They're a very good team. They've lost one game, and it's clear to see why. They're very well put together. They make very little mistakes, and they capitalize on your mistakes. And we saw that happen firsthand the other night. Um, just not the performance that we thought the Boilers were going to come out and make coming into this game. The videos that Yaxel had put out there, which again I had said was earlier in the year. It wasn't anytime current. But we go out there and our student section is screaming F words at Yaxel and stuff like that. We come in here with a lot of talk. I know Braden had previously on Sleepers had told those guys, Greg and Carter and Dion, that's the game that you should go to. That's going to be a good game, stuff like that. And then, just quite frankly, we underperformed. Didn't show up to play. I didn't think it was an effort issue this time, as we had seen in some previous games this year, like the IU game and stuff like that. I just thought we didn't show up offensively, and defensively, again, we had some bad defensive lapses of just over-rotating and somebody's getting open in the corner or backside, and just a frustrating game to watch overall. Definitely not. It just looked like we folded, and definitely not what I expected of this Purdue team. I expected a lot more out of it. Even though I know how good Michigan is, I think it also helps prove how good Michigan is a little bit. But I think if we play again, I think the outcome could change. But just a very poor performance on our end of the floor. And it starts with Braden. You look at that. If you look at his end of the stat line, it doesn't look like a bad stat line. He ends with 20 points. I believe it was 6 assists and a rebound or 2. And I think he had like 4 steals. So you look at the stat line itself, you'd say he had a pretty good night. But you watch the game and you can tell that just wasn't the case. Let me see if I got pulled up here. He had 6 assists, 3 turnovers. It's not. Let's see, how many steals did he have? Yeah, 4 steals to 1 rebound, right? So you look at the stat line and you go, oh, he had a pretty good game. 26 and 4. That's a pretty good game. But no, it very much was a poor performance on Braden's end. 10 of those points coming off of free throws in the second half. Pretty sure he was scoreless going into halftime. Ends up 4 for 13 on the night, 2 for 6 behind the arc. Just not the performance that we're used to or that we're wanting out of our, who was the Naismith preseason All-American, right, player of the year coming into the season. In a game like this is just not what you expect from him. These are the big moments, so you expect him to show up. And in my opinion, I still don't want any other point guard out there. I'd choose him 10 out of 10 times. He's the guy I want running our offense, all of it. Um, he just, in some of the big moments this year, I feel like he's had some lapses, and that's not what we expect of him. It's not what we know that he can do. And I'm hoping for a big bounce back tonight against the Hoosiers. What better team to bounce back against than the Hoosiers? And we got them at home. Um, watching sleepers, they were both there. Greg and Dion were there at Mackey against Michigan, and they talked about how it just didn't feel the same. You look at some of these games this year, which I was at the Illinois game. So the Illinois game, Iowa State, Michigan, some of these teams that we've lost to at home, and that's uncanny for us. Um, Mackey has been known to be one of the hardest places to play in, especially these last few years, as good as these Purdue teams have been. And they just talked about how it didn't feel like that. Like, definitely was rocking, it was loud, but it just didn't feel the same. Like, there were moments where, Michigan's up 12 or something like that. We hit a basket, and then, yeah, they made it sound like the crowd reacted as if it was a 2-point game now or something like that. So they said there was moments, but just that these fan base didn't sound like they had the team's back or was in it like we previously had been. And they said that they saw people leaving, with 4 minutes left in the game and stuff like that. And to me, that's just sad. I going to the Illinois game, I agree. There's a lot of fans just talking differently and didn't sound like they were supporting the same team I was. Right? It just didn't sound like they were behind them the way that I'm used to hearing and stuff like that. And I really sucks to hear because I know there's a lot of expectations on this team going into this season, but I don't think that this team has reached their ceiling. Um, we proved at the beginning of the year against teams like Texas Tech and stuff like that, and Alabama, which two teams that are still very good. Unfortunately, JT Toppin just um, pulled his ACL or tore his ACL, and so he's out for the season. But they had him when we played him. Obviously, two very good teams there that we played and beat. So I mean, we've proven to be able to play at a high level and compete against these great teams, and we're just not seeing that recently. I definitely still think it can change, and I think it's going to change come March. But obviously, we want to see that level of play against these high-level teams, because if we can't beat those high-level teams now, who's to say we can do that in March, right? But I still believe in this team. I have a lot of confidence that they're going to get it figured out. Season's not over. I still have got a lot of hope for this team. I love this team. I'm not ready to give up on them. And we saw a good fight from them. They could have easily given up. I think we were down 20 at one point, maybe 22, something like that. It was a big number in the double digits, and very much could have just rolled over and just called it that. But I thought we saw a fight from the guys, and they did a good job in that part of the effort, because that has been a struggle at times in this season. And I know that sounds like, what is this, a third grade team? They're giving effort, something like that. I understand that. But I did not feel like that was the problem. I did feel like there was still some, body language issues a few times. I did think Braden threw his hands up a few times. I think that's my biggest takeaway from him. Not necessarily from this game, but just in general, that he's got to figure that out. He's got to be this leader of the team. And there's just too many times, in my opinion, that he shows his frustration and like that. And I'm not saying showing your frustration is wrong, because by all means, you gotta get your team riled up, get them behind you and everything. But from the guy that's supposed to lead the team, that's supposed to be our guy, as a teammate, I think I would get frustrated with him and doing that in times. And he's talked about it. I mean, he's talked about it on his podcast. He's talked about it in interviews after the games, pressers. He's talked about that his body language has to be better. So he knows it. So me saying that isn't like saying something that he doesn't know. But you know, just things like that, and that I think need to improve. We just gotta have better poise as a team. There's just too much. It felt like we got riled, right? And you gotta come into this game with confidence, shoot the ball with confidence, and it just felt like some of the guys weren't doing that. We did not have a good night shooting. Again, like when we played Nebraska, we won, but we won off of effort. We didn't want to win off of our shooting, right? We had a bad shooting night. And I said it in the preview, we're not going to be able to win this game off of effort. It's got to be execution, and we didn't execute, unfortunately. We end up going 8 for 26 from 3. I also felt like, 26, you look at the box score, that does look like a large number once it comes down to it, but watching the game, I didn't feel like we took that many threes, or we didn't capitalize. Obviously, we didn't capitalize on opportunities. We shot 8 for 26, but I didn't feel like we took open shots at times, or I felt like we forced it inside a lot. And against a front court of Mara and Merez Jr. and Lendenborg, they're good defensively inside. Their defense is similar to Nebraska at times, where they forced you to shoot threes. But against Nebraska, we took those shots. We shot threes. It didn't feel like we were trying to shoot those. It felt like we were forcing it inside. And obviously Trey had 27, so part of it worked. But he shot 26 shots. Okay, so that's not efficient. He was 12 for 26. Trey also took 2 threes, and both of them I was questioning, like, if he's wide open or it's late in the shot clock, okay. But it was just very uncanny for him to just shoot that one early in the game, because it wasn't forced or anything like that, and he hasn't done that the rest of the season. So okay, it looks like all right, the game plan is to come out here and to take open threes, stuff like that. But I just didn't like that shot selection from him, and that part of it. I also felt like, he was scoring. He had some really good moves. We saw the scoring like we did last year, and by all means, I don't understand why we haven't done a lot more of that this season. He's kind of talked in pressers about being a rebounder, and he's focusing on that, and that's good. We do need that rebounding. Obviously, he led us in rebounding again with 12, and the most on the team after that, I believe, was 3. Let me see here. Yeah, the most, I guess, Fletcher had 4. Fletcher out-rebounded Clough and Jacobson, and that can't happen. And then we got a lot of 1s across the board. CJ only had 1. Braden only had 1. Omer only had 1. Jakari only had 1. Venter had 2. So 90% of our rebounding. Actually, let me do the math here. 4, 7, 8, 9. 10. Trey had 4 less rebounds than the rest of our whole team combined. The rest of the team minus Trey had 16 rebounds. Trey had 12. That can't happen. It's great to see Trey still be able to rebound that against a front court like this. But that cannot happen. He is not the only one out there. There's 4 other people on the court at a time. Clough is supposed to be this awesome rebounder, and it's like he picks when he wants to show up. I did think the refs had it out for him a little bit. That flagrant foul, I did not see it as a flagrant. I felt like, yes, I see that he grabs his leg. It didn't look like malicious intent. It didn't look like he was trying to hurt him, anything like that. Mara doesn't even move. He doesn't even act like it affected him. But Clough fell. and then he gets ran into by Benter. And I also don't understand how the play is happening on the other end of the court. There's no call on this end of the floor where that happened, and then we're able to turn around, go back, look at it, and call it a flagrant. I didn't agree with that. I thought it was stupid. And then later on in the game, Fletcher gets pushed to the ground. They look at it, nothing gets changed. I did not agree with that. Officiating did not lose us this game. Obviously, our execution did. I didn't think it helped us at all. Lendenborg has a massive travel, drags his foot on a fast break on a 2-on-1, and no call. I mean, they go back and look at it. Robbie Hummel says, that used to be a travel. No, that's still a travel. The officials missed it, and it was clear as day. You cannot miss a call like that. I was very upset about that. Also, there's a few other calls. I know Clough had a block on Mara, I believe, and it was as clean as it gets. The replay even showed, Mara made a move, got around him. Clough adjusted, got his hand on the ball, clean block, no body. I I just didn't understand. I feel like, for the team that Purdue is, the caliber of team that Purdue is, the amount of calls that we get at home just is ridiculous. It has been awful. But again, that the officiating did not lose this game. Our play lost this game. But again, I did not think they helped us. There's also, just Trey obviously had majority of our points with 27. Again, it wasn't efficient. 12 for 26, really bad. I don't understand why we force it in there as much against a front court like this. I don't understand why. There's also a lot of plays where I just felt like, Trey, you kick that out. Multiple plays. There's a few plays against Mara where he's trying to force it up, and Mara's a good shot blocker, averages 2.3 blocks a game. He's 7'3", athletic, can do a lot of things, and shot blocking is one of the best things that he can do. And I think he blocked Trey once or twice, but more than anything, he just alters shots, and I did not agree with, forcing it in like that. But to say that as well, our shooters did not shoot well. Nobody shot the ball well. Obviously, we can pick Fletcher out. He's 2 for 5 from 3, which is really not that bad. 3 for 6 from the field. 3 for 3 out of free throws. You look at that, that's not bad. Watching the game, it felt bad, right? 2 bad air balls. Not, that one where he kind of pulled up at half court on a trail from Braden. I understand to an extent the shot because, he's known to make those, their momentum changers. If he makes that, momentum changes. It does. I think we were down 9 at that point. Where it was either 10 or 9 or 12, something like that. Momentum does change if he hits that. But I still didn't quite agree with the shot, and then it obviously failed big time, and all momentum's gone. So not what you want to see. He had a clutch shot against Oregon, but that was far from clutch and not what we expect from this team, especially not what we expect from Fletcher. He's a good shooter. We know he's a good shooter. Obviously hoping that he has a good night tonight. I hope everybody has a good night tonight. I hope we get our confidence back rolling into the rest of this week. We got Michigan State next week, which I will be going to that game, so I'm going to try to get some videos, stuff like that to maybe throw into the video. But just a poor poor shooting night for us. Again, 8 for 26. Um, you know, Braden and Flesh combined for 4 for 11, which isn't, awful, but it's not good. And then everybody around him, CJ 1 for 4. Again, Trey was 0 for 2. I thought Omer had a decent game. 2 for 4 from behind the arc. Jack was 1 for 4. Jakari got one shot up, 0 for 1. Um, but, yeah, Omer had a good game, I thought. He came in, ran the offense, got 2 big threes, hit a pull-up J, I believe. Oh, no, it wasn't a pull-up. He had that hesitation floater, which I thought was a really good bucket. I thought we got good minutes out of Omer. And then it felt like second half, first half is when he was really scoring. Second half, he just didn't play. I was very confused by that. Jack also only had 9 minutes in this game. I understand that we went small. Trey was playing the 5 some. Just, I don't know. The consistency in the way the lineup moves just throws me off at times. There's definitely times where I think Benter needs to play more because he goes in there and adds rebounding. And he had 2 rebounds in 9 minutes. I don't think that's awful. And then he also hits a 3. He's 1 for 4, but I don't know. The rotation just consistently is not consistent. And there's times where Jack plays a lot, and then there's times where Jack doesn't play a lot. Omer doesn't play a lot, and then in this game he plays 15 minutes, and then second half barely plays. But in a game where our guards needed to be good, they weren't, and we played bad. Michigan played really well. 13 for 23 behind the arc, 57%. I saw something that's up like 11% of their average, I think. It might have been 14. It was a big number. And you can see why, partially. Our three-point defense is what is killing us right now. Obviously, you can go out and say our defense is bad. And, overall. But the biggest part of our defense that struggles is our three-point defense. And it showed. Michigan capitalized. They made a lot of shots. You got to give it to them. They're not known for being a high three-point shooting team. And they went out and made 13 for 23. They've got one person on here that missed a 3. Or that didn't make a 3, that attempted one. Perez Johnson is the only one that missed a 3 that attempted one. And he's not a shooter. So if I believe right, I believe it was close to a shot clock. That's why he even shot it. But Yaxel going into this game wasn't shooting very well. Ends up going 3 for 7, and I thought all 3 of his shots were big time shots. He came when it mattered. When anytime we got a little momentum, then he made one, and I think that was, I think I said that we wanted to bait him into shooting 3s going into this game because leading up to this, he had not been shooting well, and again, we would rather him shoot those than get to the lane. And unfortunately, this game he capitalized, and that's what good players do. And he's a really good player, and you can't discredit him for doing that. He came in and we kept him off the boards. He only had 2 rebounds, but he hit big shots. And then obviously their leading scorer in Cadeau, nobody could stay in front of him, could not stop him. 3 for 5 behind the arc. He's not a high volume shooting three-pointer or a 3-point shooter, but when he shoots them, he shoots it as at a high percentage. I think he's shooting 40% on the year. And I said that we needed to make him turn the ball over, that he can be a turnover machine. And he had 4 turnovers. We partially did it. but he also had 7 assists and went 6 for 12 because we couldn't stay in front of him. So we stopped him on one part, but we didn't take him out of the game. I mean, he literally got benched the game before in the second half when they played Northwestern. And Northwestern compared to us is, completely different team, and we could not stop him. And, that just can't happen. Cadeau is not, a super high-level guard. He's good, but he's not, one of the top guards in the Big Ten. Michigan wins games because their front court is really good. They got 24 rebounds out of their front court. 11-11 for Amara and Johnson. 12 points for Merez, 10 points for Mara. Mara only got to play 18 minutes. We got him out of the game, which I said was something that we needed to do, but we didn't capitalize when he was out. And then when he was in, we went back to playing inside game. And I just, obviously it was working. We were scoring, but we couldn't stop anybody. Couldn't rebound the ball. They out-rebounded us 39-31, which, on paper doesn't look that big, but it felt huge because they were big rebounds, offensive rebounds. It's just, very frustrating. They had 13 offensive rebounds. We had, we had 14 offensive rebounds. That surprised me. I didn't realize that. To their 26 rebounds, though. So, they had 26 defensive rebounds to our 17. That's an issue. We have to capitalize. When we actually get a stop, actually force them to miss a shot. You can't not come down with the board, and I didn't think it was just, them out-rebounding us because they're so much taller or just stuff like that. We did not put ourselves in positions to get the rebound. We didn't deserve to get the rebound, so we didn't. I said I didn't think it was super bad effort-wise. A lot of that being Braden. I don't think there's a game where you can go look at and say Braden didn't give you his effort. Didn't, give everything he had. But I can't necessarily say that for the rest of the guys around him in this game. Just a poor performance all around. And again, credit to Michigan. They're a good team. I mean, they shot the crap out of the ball. Lendenborg was 3 for 7. Like I said, Merez was the only player that attempted a 3 that missed, or that didn't make one. Cadeau was 3 for 5. Burnett was 1 for 3. Cheddar was 1 for 1. Kaysen was 1 for 1. Roddy Gale was not a shooter. It's 1 for 1. Trey McKinney was 3 for 4. They shot good. Right? They're a good team. But we also allowed them to have way too much open space for those shots. And that just can't happen. And, ultimately it bit us in the butt. And they took us down because of it. And, just can't have that. That can't be why we lose games, because we give open threes. And, like some of these defenses like Michigan and like Nebraska, they force you to shoot threes, but that's because they stop the inside play and don't allow you to score inside. Well, we didn't stop the inside play, and we didn't stop the three-point shooting as well. So, if we're giving up three-point shots, but they're also able to get anything they want in the paint, you're not going to win a game. And I think the box score is a lot closer than what the game felt. Again, I'm still glad that it felt like they had some fight towards the end, but the box score looks a lot different than what I was watching. And the performance tonight has to be a lot bigger against Indiana. These seniors, have not had a good performance against Indiana. Um, Historically, in their 4 years, I think it's tied for games. If they lose tonight, they have a losing record against Indiana. Not something you want to have as a Purdue player, for one. But, last time we played them, we lost off of effort, and I hope that doesn't happen tonight. But, this is the Michigan recap. But, yeah, Michigan's a good team. I don't know if they're going to lose another game. I think they still have to play Illinois again. And I'm not sure if it's their first or second time. But, they also have to play Michigan State again. So there's a chance, but our chances at the Big Ten are gone. So, but that doesn't mean the ultimate March Madness is over, right? We still got one more tournament that we can, the major one that really matters, that we still have a shot at, but not if we play the way we have been. So, thanks for stopping by. I know this is a little bit different. I'm sorry for not having it out sooner and that it's more of a podcast style, but if you tuned in, I really appreciate it. Again, I love putting these out. I have a really good time talking basketball. So thank you for stopping by. Stop in for my quick Indiana preview, even though I know we're only like an hour and a half, 2 hours out from tip off. But stay tuned for that as well. So thanks for stopping in, guys.